What's going on, YouTube? I appreciate you guys stopping in on the channel. Today I'm gonna be taking a break from my engine bay. I've been working on plating all this stuff in. Got a lot more work I'm gonna be doing on the engine bay. So if you haven't checked out that first video, check it out. More to come on the engine bay. Today's video entails how to break down my motor. I'm working on the K20 A2. This really applies to all K series, but I'm gonna go through everything. It's gonna be a lengthy video, but just stay tuned. On the next video, I'm gonna be going through all of my internal parts that I'm using on my turbo build, so watch out for that one. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thanks. So this is all gonna be 12 mils. Everything that I'm doing, at least here in the first part, removing the alternator, the compressor, and the manifold, is all gonna be 12 mils. Is all you're gonna need. And once you get to removing, you'll just need some pliers and such to get these things off. I got all the hoses off. I just have to remove both of these studs. I know in the past I've taken just two of the nuts to come off and lock them together. But seeing as I'm going to be using all new studs on here, I'm just going to lock the vice grips on and get those spun off of there. The reason why you have to take these out is because, you know, it's actually hitting right here on the back of where the power steering reservoir and the stock tensioner sit. All right, so now I got the intake manifold off. I'm gonna go ahead and take the tensioner pulley off since I got the new K20 tensioner pulley. To do that, I have to remove this. This is like the piece that this then attaches to the motor mount. So I guess you could say this is part of the motor mount. So just gonna remove these 3 14s and then remove the one 12 that's back here, and then I should be able to take off the pulley and remove this bolt. Almost didn't realize that one was in there. So I got the tensioner pulley off of there. We're gonna work on this a little bit later on. This is actually gonna have to get removed. But for now, I'm gonna work on the thermostat, and I'm gonna remove some of these hoses because I'm actually gonna be getting the new thermostat with the AN fittings on it, and as well as the upper coolant housing with the AN fittings. So a lot of these hoses are gonna go away. Go ahead and take those off now. I got all the hoses off, got the thermostat, the upper coolant housing, all the hoses that were on this side are all removed. I'm not going to be using any of the stock ones over there, as well as, like I said, the aftermarket upper coolant housing and thermostat housing. So got it pretty stripped down now. I'm just going to go ahead and stuff paper towels in all of the intake and exhaust holes or anything where water could get into the motor. And I'm gonna go ahead and spray everything down with the greaser, let it sit for a little bit, wipe that down, and kind of do that process maybe twice, and then I might hit it with some brake clean. All right, so I got it pretty good cleaned up. Like I said, and just repeated that process quite a few times. I'm still gonna clean it some more once it gets back from being built, and I'm actually gonna paint it. But for now, this is good enough. What I'm gonna go ahead and do now is I'm actually gonna cut off this whole knob right here. This is where the factory tensioner pulley set. So I can just take this and cut this back pretty much flush with this. And then I'm gonna have to cut this part flush with this here. So I'm just gonna do that far for now. I have to do this in order to run the K-tuned center feed manifold. It's the same thing with the side feed as well. But in order to do that, you have to kind of trim this back, and you might as well get rid of this big clump because it's not needed anymore. I'm just gonna start off with my cutoff wheel and get most of it cut down, and then I'll go back at it with a flappy disc and kind of get the remaining that I can't really get with the cutoff wheel. We got it off of there. The issue I was having is my cutoff wheel wouldn't reach all the way back there before I started hitting over here, and I didn't really want to come at it from the other side because I would be awfully close to this bolt and didn't want to have to take that off. So I got as far as I could, and like you saw, just hit it with the hammer, and it came clean off of there. I didn't even have to put much force into it. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take this bolt out, and then I'm going to cut this way with my cutoff wheel, and then I'll get my flappy disc out. All right, got that cut off of there. Had to do the same thing, couldn't get quite all the way down, and just whacked it with the mallet real quick. So now I'm gonna switch over to my flappy disc, get this all smooth, and then I'll start cutting down on this to try to get this whole plane even with this. All right, so I got it all cut down, nice and smooth, even with what this plane was at, and I got this even here. It did rub through a little bit right here, but I'm not too worried about it. We're actually gonna end up leaving this open for now. I did go ahead and trim down this side a bit as well as the top. Right here, and this part that sticks out is the main issue with actually trying to fit the intake manifold on. So we got that. I'm pretty satisfied with how it is now. Once the manifold comes in, I'll be able to better test that. But what I'm gonna go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead and break down this motor. So you're gonna start by unbolting the valve cover, which I've already done. I just have 2 bolts that are hand tightened on there right now. So you wanna unbolt the whole valve cover, just a bunch of tins, and then you might have to pry these up once you get the bolts out. And then I'm gonna move over and loosen the crank. This is a 19 millimeter, and I'm just gonna hit that with my impact. Like I said, I've removed mine before, and it's not gonna be too bad to get these off. Sometimes these might wanna be a real pain to get off. Also, you might have to pry here and just kind of work your way around and pry it up to get the valve cover off. But I've already taken this one off, so it should come off nice and easy. All right, so got my impact on high, nice fresh battery. Let's see how many Uggas it takes. Woo woo woo. I think we have a problem here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit all these 10 mils that are holding the timing chain cover on. So just hit all these on. So I went and got this loaner tool from O'Reilly's. So pretty much it just sits on here onto this outer ring so that you can then put another socket on the inside and get it off. And I'm just using 2 breaker bars for my other breaker bar on this side. And I just got the bar ends on there just to give some extra pressure. All right, so I actually just locked the bottom one against the side of my engine stand. Hopefully that'll hold it up for me so I can put all the pressure on this top one. Whew, there she goes. All right. So go ahead and take my 10 millimeter, take this out. Cam position sensor. I'm sorry, crank position sensor. I need a flat head. Just wedge that out a little bit. Set that to the side. Same bolt. And I'm gonna take the VTC out. Set that to the side. Now I have all the bolts out already. So I can take a flathead or a small pry bar and pry this cover off. I have to take this hose off for the oil cooler. All right, so I'm going to start removing the timing chain, timing assembly. I'm going to start by taking the tensioner off. I'm going to take the left bolt of the tensioner off and actually grab the correct size to do so. Those are going to be 10 millimeters. You want to take the outside one off first so that you can loosen this one and release the tension. I'm gonna take this one all the way off now. Go ahead and take my Allen, take the other side of this guy off. There we go. Go ahead and take these 3 10s off of this guide. All right, now I'm gonna take the 2 12 off the top. Just holding this top guide in. All right, now I can remove the timing chain. And that's going to be trash. So something I did forget to mention, this is actually how I'm keeping all of my bolts, how I keep track of the different sizes and what goes everywhere. So I'm going to continue to do this all the way around everything I take out of the motor. So it's all organized. I know exactly what bolt goes back to where, and there's no questioning. Go ahead and take out the spark plugs. I'm using my 5/8 spark plugs tool. So now I'm gonna go around and undo all of these bolts that are holding the cam caps on. I'm gonna start from the middle, do the middle, and then I'm gonna go over here, and I'm gonna do this side, and then outside, outside. All right, now that I got them all loosened up, I'm just gonna take the 2 end bolts up and kind of rock it to the side and get it to come loose. I can do that with all of them. Now the cams are completely free. Take them out. I'm gonna go ahead and take these 2 10 mils off that are holding the rocker assembly on. All right, now that I got those 2 10 mils off, I'm just gonna take my small little pry bar, find a place where I can pry up on this rocker assembly. There she is. All right, so now I'm gonna start removing the top bolts to my head studs. There's 10 of them. The sequence that I'm gonna start doing. So I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, so now we got all the head studs out. Easily just pick up the head. All right, so now I'm gonna take my pin out of my stand and rotate it upside down. Oh boy. All right, so now I'm just gonna go all the way around this oil pan and take all these 10 millimeters off. Now that we got all the bolts out, I'm gonna take and pry up. There's a little gap right here I can pry up on. I'll pry bar in there. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the baffle, all 10 mils. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take off the AC bracket and water pump housing. I should have done this earlier, but it's all right, I'll do it now. Turned around, I'm going to go ahead and remove the oil cooler. Alright, now I'm going to remove the other oil cooler line. And I'm going to remove the oil pressure switch. So now I'm just gonna go all the way around with my razor, clean up some of the old sealant that's on here around the water pump housing, around the oil pan, and we're gonna also take some brake clean and just clean up some of these areas a little bit better. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and remove the rod end caps and pull the piston out. First thing I'm gonna do, take the you can see all I did is back the screws out, use that as like a leverage point, just kind of wiggled it around until I got it to come out. Set that to the side. Now you gotta reach under, push it down. Use the end of my socket. All right, so I got all of the pistons and rods out, and what I did after that, I just went through, cranked the motor over, just spinning it, checking all these, make sure that all the bearings are off. Some of them came off with the end cap, or some of them came off with the rod, but just wanted to go through, make sure all those are out of there, just spin it around, make sure you got all of them out. Now I'm just going to remove this lower piece that holds the crank assembly in. So first I'm just going to go around with the 12mm, hit all these bolts on the outside, and then I'll come back and get these that are the main bolts that are holding the crank in. It's kind of important that you break all these by hand first instead of using the impact, just to preserve, you don't want any damage to the crank. Now, let's run all those out. I do want to point out there's two different sizes that come out of this. It's pretty obvious where the longer ones go. So you'll see there's more material that it has to go through. And I'm going to be cleaning these up, cleaning the heads up. But if you weren't going to clean them up, you do also want to just keep it separated for the ones that are actually inside, because you don't want these ones on the outside that have kind of corrosion and little stuff on them. You don't want to put that back inside the engine, so that would be getting into your oil. But I'm going to be cleaning all of them up with a wire wheel, so that's not really too much of a concern for me. So there is one 10mm right there. I'm just going to go ahead and get that loosened up. So this 10mm and washer is very important. You have to make sure that this gets back into the block. If you don't put this back in, you'll have low oil pressure. So this is a very important piece that has to go back in there. So make sure we keep good care of that one. All right, so now I'm gonna go back around with my breaker bar and my 14mm. And I'm gonna break all these loose. I'm gonna do the two insides, and I'm gonna do this one, that one, this one, that one, this one, that one, and work my way out so there's not any stress going across it, breaking it loose. Switch it over to my impact now. Just run it the rest of the way out. Make sure I don't lose the washers. Got all the bolts out. So I'm just going to grab my pry bar. Places all the way around here. It's a little indention to be able to get your pry bar in there and start working her up. We grab the smaller one. There we go. Oh yeah, fits in there nicely. And want to start working that Honda barn off there. All the way around. Got another little pry spot right here. Enough. All right, now we can pull the crank out. Go over to this side. Go ahead and pull the gasket off. There we go. Got a new one of those. That's gonna be trash. Now with the gasket off, should be able to pull her straight up. There she is. Yes, sir. I'm gonna go back in here with the 10 mil. Just take these oil squirters out. So now, with my little pick tool, you take out the main bearing. There's a little tension right here. You can kind of get under it, move it a little bit, and then it'll come out. Not going to be reusing any of these, so it doesn't really matter if I keep them in any type of order. If you do plan on reusing them, which I highly don't recommend, you want to mark these in the pairs. So pair that comes off the block and the pair that comes off of the cradle, and mark them in pairs so you know which one came from where, and so you know which pairs came together and off of which one it came off of. So I'm gonna do the same thing, remove the bearings from the cradle side, same procedure, and then we're gonna get into cleaning everything up. So I almost forgot too, you gotta take these thrust washers off of here. So I got new ones of these coming in. So I'm not gonna be reusing those. Something I also went ahead and did, I just bagged everything up. Cause all of this stuff I'm gonna be dropping off to the engine builder to build my block. So I've got all this stuff bagged up. All right, so now I'm gonna go through and just clean up the whole inside of the motor with brake parts cleaner. You wanna make sure that you're using non-chlorinated, and you wanna make sure that you have the kind that leaves no residue, because you don't want any residue to be left on the inside of your blocks, and then that's gonna kind of contaminate with your oil and everything. So I'm just gonna go through and clean all of this up with the brake parts cleaner, as well as the cradle, and I'll go through with my scraper and just scrape any extra of the Honda bond that's around the outsides off. cleaned it up some more, just making sure I got all of the Honda Bond off around the edges, cleaning up everything real good. I'll still go over it again before I take it to the machine shop, and then I'll clean it even more once I get everything back and start to assemble things before I paint it. All right, I really appreciate the guys that have made it to the end of this video, watched the whole thing. I really hope that you learned something throughout this whole process. I just wanted to break everything down, make it very clear. I know it was a lengthy video, but make sure you stay tuned on the channel. Like I said, the very next video I do is gonna show all of my internal parts that I'm using. Everything that I'm using, all of the OEM Honda parts that I've reordered, all of the aftermarket parts that I've reordered. So look out for that video, make sure you subscribe, and thank you. Have a good one.